Our first witness is no stranger to the bioenergy industry. The recent issue of the National Journal had an energy special on corn power, and included prominently in this issue was our first witness, Senator Harkin, who needs no introduction. He was first elected to the United States Senate in 1984. Iowans returned him in 2002 for his fourth term in the Senate. Previously, he served in the House of Representatives for a decade. He is currently chairman of the Senate Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry Committee and the committee that is currently considering the Farm Bill. Senator Harkin has been a leader in the biofuels industry in Congress, and he has successfully worked to increase the country's production of biofuels. Welcome to the hearing, Senator.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Congressman Davis, thanks for having me here. But above all, thank you for having this hearing, and thank you for being on the cutting edge of this legislation to try to get the workforce that we're going to need in the future. I have to apologize, I just got noticed. I thought that our vote was going to start at 10:15. It moved it up, actually was called at 10:11. Now that is a rarity in the Senate. Usually our votes are pushed back. You may be witnessing a first here where a vote actually occurred before they scheduled it. Let me just say that as I was coming over here through the rotunda, let me just ask that my statement be made a part of the record. When I was coming over here, Congressman, through the rotunda, I looked up. There's that frieze that goes around that main rotunda of the Capitol. You see the history of the United States depicted up there. The last panel is the flight of the Wright brothers airplane. Right before that's the Industrial Revolution. I submit to you that we are on the cusp of a bioenergy revolution in this country. Bioenergy, biochemical revolution in this country. And it will change things as dramatically as the Industrial Revolution changed America at that time. Now, we've got to be ready for it. Just as you said, Congressman, I think both of you alluded to the fact that a lot of this will be small businesses. We think of the Industrial Revolution a lot of times in the big factories and the big plants, but really it was in our small machine shops, our small foundries, that people experimented and devised the kinds of equipment and tools that we needed for our farms and for our mechanization in America. It wasn't the big plants. The big plants may have forged the steel and stuff, but it was the small plants and the small businesses that really enabled us to take advantage of the Industrial Revolution. I think the same thing is going to be happening with our bioenergy revolution. Now, I mentioned that picture. I also have a picture in my office. One of my favorite pictures is of Henry Ford, the original Henry Ford. It was taken in 1939, and it's old Henry Ford. He was fairly old at that time. He passed away, I think, at 46. He had a baseball bat, and he's striking the trunk of a 1939 Ford to demonstrate that that trunk, made from soybeans, would not dent and wouldn't break. That was 1939. I also have a picture of Henry Ford wearing a soybean suit. He predicted at that time that the cars of the future, much of the composites, the steering wheels, the dashboards, things like that, would be made from bio-based products. Well, what happened to Henry Ford's dream? Well, what happened was World War II. We had to have an immense, immediate demand for petrochemicals, for petroleum to conduct the war, and then we've been living on that ever since. We've just sort of been living off of that generation of that ever since. Well, we now know what's happening. We're depleting our oil supplies, plus the places that we get our oil from are very unstable. And as you said, Mr. Chairman, this has a lot to do with national security and what we're going to do about our national security. And you are right, we have to act now. We can't afford to just sort of let this dribble along. And so in order to move this, as you mentioned, we put in the last Farm Bill, the first ever energy title. I've been in constant consultation with my counterpart on the House side, Chairman Peterson, and Mr. Goodlatte, Senator Chambliss on our side. We've been working on a bipartisan basis to kind of push the envelope even more on energy production from biomass. So cellulose is going to be a big part of the future. And I saw a map, Congressman Davis, of the United States and the estimates. Actually, this was a study done by the University of Tennessee. And it showed the United States in terms of increases in net farm income in the next 25 years, I believe it was. I may be mistaken there. And the places where the net income is going to be the biggest are in the states that have the best biomass production. Tennessee was one of them, by the way, of course, with Iowa. Where you're going to see big gains because of the demands that are going to be put on us. So as we move ahead in all of these areas, we're going to need, Congressman Brady, what you have so presciently, I think, thought about, and that is, where's the workforce coming from? Where are these people going to be? Now, if you don't mind, I'll brag a little bit on Iowa, if you don't mind. We are now number one, as you know, in the production of ethanol. In fact, we have sort of reached a milestone of energy independence of our own in Iowa. If we did not export ethanol out of Iowa, we would have enough ethanol in Iowa to replace 100% of our gasoline in the state of Iowa right now. It's true. Now, we're also building wind generators. Now, we're third in the nation in the production of wind energy. California first, Texas, and then us. But in per capita, we're number one. I always like to point that out. We're number one in wind energy production per capita basis. And we're building even more. We will surpass Texas very soon and probably reach California in a short time. But these require technicians. They require people that know how to repair. These are huge windmills. These are not 1.5 megawatts. These are 2.5 megawatt generators. We need the workforce. People trained not only how to make them, construct them, how to modify them, maintain them, work on them when they break down. So it's going to take a new kind of workforce there. Then in the biofuels with the ethanol and with cellulose coming online. Now we're going to move rapidly into cellulose. We cannot meet either what President Bush has wanted or what we have in our energy bill on the Senate side in terms of renewable fuel standard. We will not be able to meet that just by corn alone. We're going to have cellulose. And so that's going to generate a whole new kind of basis of input. How do we grow the crops? How do we process them? What are the enzymes we're going to use? What are the pyrolytic processes that we might have to use in conjunction with that? More research money is going to, and we're going to do that in our farm bill. We're going to put more research money into cellulose conversion. But now again, we're going to have to think about the new kind of plants that are going to be built and how they're going to be maintained. Where's that workforce going to come from? I can tell you, Congressman, like you, I visited a lot of our ethanol plants in Iowa, and you'd be amazed how many of those plants, I've talked to the managers or some of the people working there, graduated from Iowa State, got a good degree in engineering, chemical engineering maybe, mechanical engineering, whatever, left the state because there were no jobs. They're now back in Iowa. They're now back because there's good paying, good jobs there for them. So I can see this as sort of a win-win-win for everyone. It's better for the environment with all of the impact of global warming that we're seeing. It's good for our national security. The more fuels we can get from our fields and trees and whatever else it might be, then the less we have to get from unstable countries that aren't necessarily acting in our best interest. And third, it's going to provide new jobs, a whole new culture of jobs and job opportunities in our society. Well, we can't just sit back and say, well, fine, when they build them, they'll come. Well, I appreciate the Field of Dreams analogy. But I don't just want to let these plants go ahead because we have to do everything we can to push it as rapidly as possible. Now, if you build the plants but they can't get the workforce, that's going to slow everything down. So I'm just here to just say thank you for this legislation, add whatever support I can to help move it along, Congressman Braley and Congressman Davis. I think you're on to something. And there's no better place to do this than our community colleges. No better place. They're out there where the action's taking place. They have the expertise to do it. Oh, I'm not saying that our regents, universities, and stuff can't do that too. But it just seems uniquely designed for our community college structure to be able to train, educate, and to maybe even have retraining, skill upgrading as we go along, because these plants are not going to be static. What we start with will not be what they're going to be 10 and 20 years from now. They're going to change and modify and become more efficient. So it's going to require a constant adaptation by our workforce to maintain those. So I just wanted to be here to, again, thank you for this, to lend whatever support I can, and commend you for holding the hearing, introducing the legislation, and I hope we can get it through as rapidly as possible as a good adjunct to what we're going to be doing in the Farm Bill. Thank you very much, Mr.